Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Geordie's Basement. My name is Jordan, here once again with our good friend from Iowa. Say hi to Rob. How you doing, buddy?
Buddy, how you doing out there?
And today, as you know, we've been doing these album rankings, and we're kind of purposely ramping ourselves up into the more difficult ones, starting out kind of easy. We've done several so far. We did Transatlantic and we did Asia. You can find those in the playlist here on the Geordie's Basement channel. So please do go back and watch those if you haven't already. Today we're tackling a more difficult one that I thought would be a little easier than it was. This is Van Halen. So it's an age-old barroom discussion. Who's the better singer? What's the better version? All this stuff. Well, we're going to break it down, and it was surprising to me the results. It was very difficult. I know it was for you too. And well, we're going to get right to it. There's 12 studio albums. As always, we're not doing live albums. We're not doing comps. May mention a comp. I know Rob will probably mention a song or two on the comps. And we'll break this down from our least listened to our most listened to Van Halen albums. And without further ado, we're going to start at number 12. Rob, you're up.
First, it should be mentioned this is our first non-prog episode.
Correct.
Weird.
Yes.
And this might bother some people, but bottom of the list for me is Diver Down. This is mostly a covers album. I mean, there's 5, 6 covers on this thing. It would have been so much better if the band had written more songs. I know the label pushed them into it, but the originals are really good. The covers just drag it down for me.
Yeah, agreed. It was an album that I don't think the band ever intended on releasing. But what saves that album, I mean, it's got one of the greatest Van Halen songs ever on it, Little Guitars.
Yeah,
which
great.
that's like top down in your Camaro speeding down the highway. Perfect vintage Van Halen. But yeah, something's got to be at the bottom, right? And I don't know if that one's going to piss. I hope this doesn't piss anybody off. But for me, the weakest Van Halen album has always been the last one they did with Sammy. See your reaction already. And I know there's some folks out there because many people think this is the best album, especially obviously the Sammy fans. I never liked Balance. I couldn't get into it. It's their 10th album from 1995. Obviously, the last one with Sammy. I just think it's littered with filler. I don't like the ballad High Enough at all. It's got a great song, Don't Tell Me What Love Can Do. I think that's just a blistering great song. And I saw your comment on Facebook, I think it was yesterday, about how you like Can't Stop Loving You. And so I imagine this album would be higher for you, but I just don't like that song. I just think it's hokey, and I can't get into it. Just can't get into it. But did you know that The Seventh Seal was nominated for a Grammy? The very first song was nominated for a Grammy Award, Hard Rock Performance. It lost to Pearl Jam. So I guess there's something about it. But yeah, I just didn't like it too much, and I never reached for it to this day. Balance. What's your number 11 before they start throwing stones at us?
I'm going to continue angering people with another Roth album, and it would be 2.
Wow. All right.
Yeah, sorry, I got a phone call there. For me, there's nothing hugely memorable on the album. Light Up the Sky is cool. Somebody Get Me a Doctor. Dance the Night Away, of course. But for me, it's another one of those Roth albums I just don't come back to.
Yeah, you know what? It's obviously it ranks higher for me. Not all that much higher, but it does. I think what hurt it a little bit, at least in my opinion, was the strength of the debut, and you're coming off of that. Like it's
right.
That may have been a little bit of a letdown, and also the damn thing was so short. Like every Roth album was. It's barely long. I mean, Stranger in Your Soul was probably longer than most of the Van Halen albums with Roth, right?
I think so.
It is. Most prog songs that we love are. So my next one's definitely going to get some looks, and that's Women and Children First. This is this is a borderline metal album. 1980, first album they made with no covers on it, which I thought was admirable. It was good. I thought the first sign of Diamond Dave on this with his, I don't know. I thought it was a little bit too hokey at times. Although it's got, I mean, Cradle and Everybody Wants Some classic rock songs. I don't need to hear them that much ever again, but they were out, certainly played a ton. And they're classic Van Halen songs. And Lost of Control is a great heavy song. There's some good stuff on it. I just, in the grand scheme of things, I rank it towards the bottom. And its hard rock sound just never resonated with me. It's borderline metal sound never resonated with me. Women and Children First, number 11. So number 10.
Women and Children First.
All right.
And I think the problem I have with a lot of the early Van Halen is, and I don't know if we can curse on here, but it's a lot of the David Lee Roth kind of vocal wankery.
Yeah.
It never did it for me. The talking, the weird noises. I think there's Tarzan howls on this album. Like, why are we Tarzan howling in the middle of a hard rock song?
You're absolutely right. Diamond Dave. That's what I call the Diamond Dave persona.
There's mumbling here in the Cradle of Rock. It's just like Moonbeam. I'm like, what? What? Never really did it for me.
Yeah, I totally agree. That was really the first appearance of that. Before they were really kind of a serious hard rock band, and this album was kind of like changing a little bit.
What are you doing?
Point. Exactly. Well, my number 10 you mentioned is Diver Down. The only reason why this is not at the bottom for me is little guitars and secrets. And you're right. Most of the songs, there's only 5 or 6 originals on it. And 2 of them are secrets and little guitars, which are really, really great songs. Like I said, little guitars is awesome. But God, Sweet Bad Bill, what is it? Big Bad Bill, Sweet William now, more Roth silliness. You know, I Where Have All the Good Times Gone? I'm a big Kinks fan. I didn't love the cover that they did.
Until yesterday, I didn't know that was a cover.
Oh wow!
It was like the one song. I'm like, well, at least they wrote this. It's really good. And then somebody mentioned to me, nope, that's a cover.
Oops. Yeah, it's a cover.
I'm like,
and of course, Pretty Woman, which was okay, but whatever. It's
And
also, it's all of 31 minutes long. So, what's your number 9?
This one was really hard. I wanted to rank it higher, but everything above it is just so damn good. But the Sharon album, 3, I wanted it higher. It's a fantastic album, but it feels more like an Eddie Van Halen solo album. I mean, Michael Anthony's only on 3 tracks here.
Yeah.
They could have really reinvigorated and brought the band up to the next level, but it just sort of fell flat. Great album, but it does feel like an Eddie solo album to me.
It is a lot of Eddie. Eddie's definitely, I mean, he sings lead on one of the tracks, for crying out loud. So yeah, I totally agree with you.
It's not terrible, but
listen, most Van Halen fans do think it's terrible. I think you and I, with the prog influence involved, I think we hear things a little bit more wide open. I was more accepting. I'm a huge Extreme fan, and I love Gary Sharon. I think we agree on that. I think I was surprising how high up it appeared on my list. We'll hear about it in a few minutes. But yeah, I agree with you on that. It's definitely not at the bottom of Van Halen album. For me, in the number 9 spot, sadly for most Sammy fans, is For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge, 1991. Thought of this album a lot yesterday, 316, Wolfgang's birthday. There's a little instrumental track. But some of the tracks on this album that are great, in my opinion, weren't the ones that were hugely famous. Like Right Now, I thought was okay. I really love In and Out, Man on a Mission, The Dream Is Over. The middle 3 tracks there are my 3 favorite on the album. I don't love Top of the World. Same reason why I didn't love Can't Stop Loving You. I thought it was a little too rah-rah, kumbaya, sing-alongy. And there's some filler. Every Van Halen album has these filler tracks on it, and Spanked and Pleasure Dome and things like I just skip them. But I do think it's a good album. It certainly rocks. Pound Cake, awesome start. So yeah, the Fuck album.
Oops.
Number 8.
The lowest ranking Sammy album for me, 5150. It's a good album. I love it. It's Sammy. There's some great stuff on here, but like Summer Nights is really good. Best of Both Worlds. 5150 is a killer track, but just not my favorite of the Sammy albums.
Wow. That was when the world changed. When that album came out, it was like, oh my God, they're gonna have 2 guitars and Sammy Hagar. Oh my God, I can't wait to hear this. Yeah, and I'll speak about that in a second. But yeah, I agree with you on most of what you said. My number 8 is Van Halen 2. Comes up a little higher than it does with you. It reached number 6 in the charts, which was at the time they're much higher. They've only reached number 19, I think, which is surprising. But yeah, it's so damn short. You wish it had 3 or 4 more songs on it. I don't love the cover, You're No Good, too much, but it's got DOA, Light Up the Sky, and Beautiful Girls, and Women in Love. I mean, it's all really, really great songs. 1979's 31-minute opus. Van Halen 2 is my number 8 album.
I guess it just kind of flies by.
It does. It's there and then it's gone. Number 7.
This will anger some people. The Debut.
Wow.
Doesn't finish in my top pile. Great album. Amazing guitar licks. Of course, Eddie arrived on scene and just blew the place up. Obviously, they wanted to show how great their guitarist was here. Their singers, again, just howling and wailing, and I don't know what he's doing sometimes. There's several years ago on the internet, they put like this sound thing out that just had roughs and noises and running with the devil.
Yeah, I
played
remember
with that because I'm like, he's really singing this. Great album, Ice Cream Man, a silly little song, but for some reason I just really enjoy that one. But here's where it ranks for me.
Yeah, I love I mean, it's considered such a landmark debut, and obviously for all the reasons, Eddie and everything else. But man, to put it at number 8, that's very, very interesting. I'm anxious to hear what people think about that. Van Halen 1. I mean, the first time we heard it was one of those albums. The first time you heard it was like, wow, what is this? I think it changed the direction of FM radio at the time too, with Styx and REO Speedwagon and all that. All of a sudden, Van Halen is there.
I wasn't.
You're right. You're right. You're well. You're younger than I am, so you're probably. I don't know if you were like for me, it was 7th grade or so, and I was like, wow.
I wasn't born until the next year.
Damn.
Yeah,
All right, so we're getting in the nitty gritty here. So number 7 for me is the last album they did, A Different Kind of Truth. This is obviously the return of Roth, and I think it's a tale of 2 sections. Tattoo, She's the Woman, You and Your Blues, Chinatown, not so much, Blood and Fire, amazing, and then it completely falls off a cliff until Stay Frosty. The rest of the album is completely forgettable for me. I love Blood and Fire. Dave's line, "See, I told you I was coming back. Tell me you miss me." It's so Roth. It's so funny. But I thought it was an admirable return, although Michael's not a part of it. Obviously, Wolfgang's the bassist. But I thought it came in higher on my list than I thought it would. Number 7, A Different Kind of Truth.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Top 6.
Going back to the year 1984 here, or 1980, which I think would finish a lot higher on most people's lists. And it's a great album. There's more keyboards, a little more experimentation. Definitely not a guitar album, but I think that's what bothered people. I don't know. Although I'll Wait doesn't even sound like Van Halen. I believe that's the track. It just doesn't even sound like them. It's all ballad. It's a cool song.
Well, you're spot on. When that album came out, the first thing was, oh my God, what is this keyboard stuff? And Eddie wanted to play the keyboards. But you're right. I'll Wait does not sound like it belongs on a Van Halen album, although it's a good song. There are other songs on that album that do rip. Again, the ones that weren't necessarily on the radio, like Top Jimmy and songs like that. We've never had, this is our 3rd episode, and so far, we're not done this episode yet. We've not had an album, I don't think, come in the same slot for both of us, not even once. I don't believe. And we still don't, because my number 6 is which the wrong one. My number 6 is 5150, an album I do not own on CD. I cannot believe it. I only have vinyl. I was surprised, so it's on order. That's one of the good things about these videos. You can realize what you're missing. 5150 is obviously the Sammy Hagar's entry into the band. I think it suffers from filler. I mean, Inside, Get Up, songs I skip every time. Every Van Halen album has them. But 5150, the song you mentioned, is an underrated, phenomenal rock song. Why Can't This Be Love? Love Walks In. Dreams is a classic Sammy vocal, which just is live. It was just so powerful because he could pull it off live. Not many people could. So 5150 for me is number 6 from 1986. We're in the top 5 now. No turning back. What do you got?
Fair warning. And I think the high point on me is the last 2 really brief tracks with Sunday Afternoon in the Park. Just this really cool, like, synth song. And One Foot Out the Door, fantastic. Of course, Unchained. Mean Street, I think, is one of my favorite Van Halen songs. I got that glare there, but fantastic album. Love this one.
It is a fantastic album, and we'll hear about that one shortly as well from my end. My number 5 in hitting the top 5 now is OUA 1-2, which, if you've been keeping track, will be the highest ranking Sammy album on my list. I think it's the best thing they did with him. Again, it has its filler. I mean, Apolitical Blues isn't even an original. Black and Blue is okay. Sucker and a 3-piece, Source of Infection is okay. But the good songs on this, I mean, Mine All Mine, I can listen to every day. It's one of my favorites. AFU, Feels So Good, When It's Love. It's full of really great songs. For me, this is their high watermark. I love the King Crimson style cover with the red, which I thought was kind of cool. But yeah, I think it's a hokey title to OU 812, a direct response to David Lee Roth's Eat 'Em and Smile, which came out a year or two before this one. But yeah, OU 812 is my number 5 and highest ranking Sammy album on this list. Numero Quattro.
OU 812 next for me.
Oh.
Although it has to be said how annoying it is looking at the song titles on the back, and instead of putting it in order, it's alphabetical.
Yes.
I don't know why they did that.
That is crazy.
Source of Infection, a weird tune, but I enjoy it. It's like it should have been left instrumental. They added some stuff to the chorus and some vocalizing, but overall it should have been an instrumental. I love Sammy, but he should have just stayed at his Roth style fuckery. All right. I just didn't need it, but otherwise fantastic album. I love everything here. And of course, Sammy.
Yeah. No, that's cool. And what you mentioned, the alphabetical on 5150, they didn't even put the songs on the back.
Ooh.
So I'm pulling out the insert like to read it. But yeah, I don't know which is worse. But here we go.
It's there for the CD when you get it.
Oh, okay, good. I'm looking forward to that. Well, here we go. Here's where the craziness is, because my number 4 album is this Van Halen 3. And again, the only reason why I can think of why I love it and other people, most other people, and certainly my circle of friends do not, is because of I love prog. And for me, there are prog elements in this. I mean, you have to, people say, well, Gary Sharon didn't sing with the music. He was off sync with the music. Well, that in prog, that's kind of commonplace for us. Like, everybody's kind of doing their own thing. I thought musically, this was brilliant. The arrangements are fantastic. It's got a shit ton of filler on it. Fire in the Hole, Ballad of the Bullet. But I mean, Without You, One I Want, From Afar, Dirty Water Dog, Once. I love Once. I love Josephina very, very much. How Many Say I, the Eddie sung tune, I like it. I think it's got charm. I mean, Sharon adds his harmonies. I think it's kind of cool. I mean, it's kind of self-promoting, but I think it's cool. So I feel bad this album got I can do a whole video on this album, but it is absolutely, for me, and I've reviewed this 100 times, my 4th favorite Van Halen album of all time.
Yeah, I wanted it higher, but because you're right, it's a fantastic album, start to
It
finish.
really is. Doesn't get its due. It's one of the more underrated rock albums in our lifetime, my opinion. Number 3.
The last of the David Lee Roth for me, A Different Kind of Truth. Even without Michael Anthony, I thought Wolfgang did great here. I love the songs. I think it's phenomenal. Blood and Fire, just a killer track.
Agree.
Stay Frosty in the vein of Ice Cream Man, a bit silly, but I didn't know I missed that kind of style until it was gone for years.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good song. So sadly, the last Van Eddie studio album, but
yeah,
really cool stuff. And from the tour on this, they released their first live album.
Correct.
It was the Live in Tokyo. It came out. When it came out, they said their first live album from Van Halen. Like, what about live right now? What about Live Without a Net? They're trying to erase the Sammy years. But great album. I was a little miffed by the live album.
Well, the live album is being I think it's a Sammy live album coming on a Record Store Day this year, if I'm not mistaken.
The remaster of I believe the Live Right Here Right Now album.
Okay, all right. So it's not a new live album, just a remaster of an existing one. I got you.
Yeah.
Interesting for you. The best Roth album was the last Roth album.
I seem to like the newer albums from older bands. It happens a lot with me.
And his voice had changed so much. I mean, he was never much of a vocalist. Roth is more of a front man than he is a vocalist. A tremendous front man, not much of a vocalist at all. So you're not going to get you're not going to get the Sammy type vocals out of him. That's for sure.
No.
but very interesting nonetheless. Number 3 for me is 1984. Again, I said it earlier, but for me, my favorite tracks on this are the ones that, not Jump in Panama, obviously, classics, I'll wait. But I mean, Drop Dead Legs, Girl Gone Bad, Top Jimmy is my favorite song on the album. Again, it's got its filler. I mean, House of Pain I could do without. And it's short. Again, what at 35 minutes, it's actually not as short as some of their others. But it is still short. And then shortly after this album came out, Roth was gone, the world changed, Sammy was in. But this remains a classic, and the cover, it's iconic. So number 3 for me is 1984, the last album I did with Roth. Well, not true until he came back years later. I should clarify. All right, we're in the top 2. What do you got?
Sucks.
Wow.
College. See, you said there was filler for me. Other than Spanked, there is no filler here for me. I love the entire disc. Although, man, some like Runaround, it was a classic for a reason, man. That's a good song. The Dream is Over, vocals on the chorus, some of Sammy's best work. I love this album.
Wow. I know what your number 1 is. I can't wait to hear your comments on your number 1, because what a difference it is between our number 1 and my number 12. But my number 2 is the debut. And I thought this was going to finish number 1. It's not. It's finishing number 2. And I'll explain why when we talk about the number 1. But I mean, Eruption, it's Running with the Devil. There's so many just classics. And live, I think I saw them with Roth maybe 4 or 5 times, and each time was like an experience to see them come out with the Stax, the Marshalls, and Roth with his machete, and such a showman. And these songs just came to life live. I mean, you're not going to listen for a vocal performance live. You want to tune that out if you're listening to it on. Perhaps that's why they didn't make many live albums with Roth. But this out, Little Dreamer, Ice Cream Man, On Fire. The album just ends on fire. So, it really is one of the great debuts in history. The iconic picture, David Roth on vocals, is my number 2. So that leaves your number 1, man. Bring it. It's my number 12. I can't wait to hear about it.
First, it's got to be said, my favorite Sammy Hagar song, not on any studio album. It's on the compilation Humans Being from the Twister soundtrack. Phenomenal song. But
Agreed.
Favorite album, your least favorite, my favorite, Balance. Such a great album. I mean, there's an instrumental track here, Strung Out. Creepy as shit. Feels like the whole time I'm listening to it, I'm looking behind me thinking someone's going to come up and stab me. But luckily they didn't. I survived. But 3 instrumental tracks on here. Was it Doing Time, the sort of percussion solo? Really cool stuff. I think on this album and all of the Sammy albums, I think Alex was finally given window to just play, just to rock out, because I think the Sammy albums have his best performance of the entire career. And just really cool stuff. And yes, I love Can't Stop Loving You. As you said, one of my favorite songs. I love, if you don't like Sammy's vocals on that, you just don't like Sammy. Maybe it's a cheesy song, but in my opinion, if you don't like his vocal performance there, you're just not going to like Sammy.
It is a great vocal performance. He had a lot of them. But it's funny you mentioned Alex, because Alex, right when Roth left, they switched producers. Templeman was out, and that's when you said Alex started to really come out and come to the forefront. That was without Ted Templeman. So it's possible that maybe the producer had something to do with him. I mean, Mick Jones produced 5150, or was one of the producers. So perhaps production had something to do with Alex becoming, more in the forefront. But you're right. The Seventh Seal specifically, great percussive song. But it's how interesting. This is why I do these videos. I love it. My last is your first. And I agree. I mean,
you're any more different than that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, my number 1 wasn't too far off for you. That's fair warning. And the reason why, and the album is super short. I have it written down. It's only 31 minutes. And really, if you take off the last 2 songs, which I know you mentioned as 2 of your favorites, they're both kind of pieces more than their songs. And that's the album goes down to about 26 minutes of proper hard rock music, which is really what this album is. Mean Street, Dirty Movie, Sinner Swing, Hear About It Later. Unchained is my personal favorite Van Halen song of all time with Roth or Sammy. So This Is Love, crank it up. This album for me, it's 7 deep, which for Van Halen is not that common because of all the filler that we talked about. But yeah, I agree with you. By the way, I want to piggyback on what you said about Sammy with Humans Being. I do love that song very much. Wish it was on an album. And same with the Me Wise Magic. The Roth song on that is also awesome.
That's my
Brian?
favorite. Me Wise Magic, my favorite Roth song.
Oh wow! And again,
Although
both of them, neither one on an album. Your favorite two songs, not on any proper album. Very interesting side note. But number one for me, again, fair warning, it's one of my favorite hard rock albums of all time. And then when it came out, I remember the first time we heard, She Looks So Fucking Good. What song was it? Dirty Movies. It was like, oh my God, the F word is on an album. I was 14 years old or 13 years old. It was like played over and over and over again. So there you go, man. That's quite a list. And we got through them. I don't think that order is going to change anytime soon. I'm pretty confident. And so bring on the comments, guys. As we always say, please put your comments down below. What is your list? Let's get some conversation going here. Rob and I were definitely different here, and we can't wait to see what you guys have to say in your own lists. Perhaps balance is in the middle for you, and we're all all over the spectrum. Either way, please like and subscribe. Go check out Rob's band. I neglected to mention at the top, Liberty's Exiles. The link is in the comments here below. If you like independently produced and recorded progressive rock music, go check out Liberty's Exiles. Lots to hear there. And hopefully we're back in another week with another one of these rankings. Everybody have a great weekend. Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
And we'll see you soon. Bye, guys.